Welcome to Taco Talk! Welcome to Taco Talk. My name is Sam Cook, and Taco Talk has been a brainchild of mine for, 6, 7, 8 years now. Every episode I'll have a different guest join me as I try a new or favorite recipe, and we'll talk about their passions. So my guest and I tonight will be enjoying tacos, and I will put the recipe that we used in the comments after the video posts. So tonight I'm joined by Boston-based writer Dustin Grinnell. Dustin is the author of 3 novels, including his most recent novel, The Empathy Academy, which published with Atmosphere Press in 2022. Dustin is the host of the Spotify podcast Curiously, and his fiction and creative nonfiction combine medicine and the humanities, and it has appeared in many popular magazines such as New Scientist, Perspective in Biology and Medicine, and Vice, just to name a few. This year, Dustin has 3 new books coming out, including Lost and Found, a collection of essays, which we're going to talk about tonight while we eat our tacos. Welcome, Dustin.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, how's your taco?
It's delicious. I like the use of turkey burger as the meat. That was a nice touch.
Yes, so the recipe is all Trader Joe's inspired, hoping to get a sponsorship from them.
Right.
So, Dustin, you're going to be reading an excerpt from one of your essays, Backed Up in China, which does appear in your essay collection, Lost and Found. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, this is just a 1-minute excerpt from my collection. This is an essay about me being in China and being constipated.
Great.
It's called Backed Up in China. It was my 4th day in Beijing without going number 2. That's 4 days of breakfast, lunch, dinner, some snacks, some drinks, all backed up and getting weird, and 30 feet of cramped intestines. I had experienced backups in my travels, but 96 hours was ridiculous. I was visiting China to study traditional Chinese medicine. I had intended to carry out the research via a Fulbright National Geographic Fellowship. But when my proposal didn't make the cut, I told my host advisor I was coming anyway. By the 2nd day in Beijing, I had adjusted to the deep stares my blue eyes and yellow hair were attracting, the city's frenetic pace, weaving mopeds and flashing stores with staff shouting discounts through headset microphones. But the food still vexed me. The dishes I was eating from curbside vendors were going in my body, but not coming out, dropping into a seemingly bottomless pit of tangled noodles.
I don't know if it seems appropriate that we're eating, and that's the essay that we got, but...
Yeah, when in Rome, you know?
Yeah, I feel it. So I'm excited to talk about Lost and Found with you. So Lost and Found is a collection of 23 essays, is that correct? Mm-hmm. That you spent 10 years writing.
I did.
And so the collection itself was something you put together during the pandemic, but like I mentioned, it was actually a work of progress for over a decade. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I basically wrote the first essay about 10 years ago. I had no intention of writing a book or a collection. I was just following my nose and writing about things that were interesting to me. Things like having to do with career and family and friendship and in travels. So I had traveled a lot in my 20s and early 30s, and it occurred to me to just, it's good material. I could make some stories out of these things. So, yeah, I started writing one story every few months. Sometimes I would work on something else and then write another story. Again, no intention to write a book. And over the period of 10 years, I wrote about 23 essays, or 20 or so essays. And then when the pandemic happened, it had been gnawing at me for a while to kind of think about how are these stories potentially connected. Mm-hmm. In a way, they were all about myself, some of my work experiences and some of my travels and things. but there were common themes. And I spent the pandemic basically getting all these essays and trying to find a structure for them, and then collecting them into a book. And it was a period of 10 years, and I just I sort of didn't realize it was happening, but before I knew it, I had a book length work.
Yeah, that's really impressive. So how throughout your life, throughout your writing career, how do you decide which moments make the cut when you go to write a personal essay?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you whatever you write, you want it to be entertaining. So I want to pick material that is in some way going to interest a reader, because you have a reader. These aren't diary entries; they're stories. So I pick material that it will be hopefully intrinsically interesting to a general audience. So examples of that in this book, I climb Mount Kilimanjaro and get altitude sickness. I ride a motorcycle across the country, and I run a marathon in Paris, and I kind of think that material is maybe just interesting to most people. So that's like the first thing. You want to make sure the material is like just gonna be worth like spending time on.
Yeah.
And the second thing is there's something about the personal essay that allows you to kind of interrogate yourself and try to make sense of experiences. So particularly in the context of family, I use these essays to like think about certain events in my life, early childhood and things like that. So I was using these essays to kind of make sense of my experiences, and to hopefully by doing that find something kind of universal in those explorations. Trying to go from like personal to universal as much as I could, take it off start with myself, and then figure out how it sort of applies to other people.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that essays that the reader will read and encounter take, it spans 10 plus years of your life. It's almost like the reader is watching you grow up in real time if they were to read it front to back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the experiences themselves range from like me at 25 to me at 40.
Right.
So it's really kind of 15 years of life.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot happens from your mid 20s to you becoming, 40. And like, I think a lot of what the book tries to do is show the experience of, going from lost to found. So the title is Lost and Found. And what I mean by that is like, usually I'm exploring some sort of state I was in that was a vulnerability or deficiency or a weakness, and then I learned to kind of overcome that or something. So I talk about being like overconfident, and then being humbled.
Yeah.
So example of like going to Kilimanjaro and climbing the mountain, kind of knowing I was vulnerable to altitude sickness, because I'd gone to Colorado and had a terrible headache, so I figured I'd probably have problems, and so I did it anyways though. And there's like that kind of like hubris is something you generally pay for. So that was like one of the themes I explored. Another theme I explored is this ability to kind of self-delude, to kind of bend reality. You hear about like Steve Jobs, like his ability to distort reality around him.
Yeah.
I'm no tech entrepreneur, but I do have some. I have some ability to kind of see what I want to see, and so I kind of dealt. There's one essay where I talked about Don Quixote and that character's ability to kind of his self-determination, his ability to kind of see the world the way he wants to see it, tilting on windmills, so to speak, and I think part of the exploration through these essays is like kind of figuring out how to come into self-awareness. So self-delusion to self-awareness. So lost to found. And that was kind of like, that's kind of the theme that most of these stories follow.
And they seem to pay each other off as well. If we see a theme in Lost, we usually see another essay about it in Found.
Yeah.
I love that. So what type of audience do you see being drawn to this collection? Who is walking through the bookstore, who is scrolling on Amazon, who is on TikTok, and they see this book and they're like, I need it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it'll be curious to know exactly who will find something like this interesting. I think people who are interested in, like, travel stories might find this interesting. Like, Pico Iyer is a travel writer has written fantastic books about his travels over the years. Same for Tim Cahill. So I think people who are kind of adventurous and they're interested in reading about experiences about foreign travel and things like that. I think anybody who's just kind of intellectually curious, emotionally intelligent, people who are kind of interested in, like, maybe a little, like, a dash of philosophy here and there, because I do dip into some big ideas here and there.
Yeah.
I think I just the way I started to think about it is, like, I hope that through the telling of the story I drop some kind of philosophical or spiritual wisdom, and it's like without eating your vegetables, you know. I don't want to, like, shove it down your throat. I want you to have this kind of breezy, entertaining story, and then show a character, not always me, but someone overcoming, themselves, so to speak.
Yeah, I think as someone who enjoys reading personal essays and enjoys memoir and creative nonfiction, I think something that I always really like is when you witness the writer, like, they have, like, a nugget, like a golden nugget of realization, and it's not, like, spelled out for you on the page.
Right.
I think that's something that I'm always drawn to, and I do, as someone who has read your work, I see that in your personal essays.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it really is the hardest thing to have a piece of writing, a piece of nonfiction writing that has kind of memoir and maybe even, like, a little commentary and maybe even, like, reportage at the same time, to have it transcend to the level of kind of, like, universality.
Yeah.
You know? Can someone read this and it's clearly just not all about you? There's something about it that transcends from the personal to the general.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that my earlier essays probably don't have, that some of the latter essays, as I, grew as a writer, may have, because I became more and more aware that the art form, that subgenre, the personal essay, that art form, is a really good space to do something like that.
Yeah. I almost forgot about our tacos. I was so so into hearing about your book. So when and where can readers find Lost and Found?
Yeah, so we're early right now. I literally just submitted the final manuscript to the publisher. Mm-hmm. So we're shooting for a publication date later this year, 2023, with Peter Lang Group as the publisher. So hopefully I will have an ability to share the book by the end of the year, maybe early next year.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You do have 2 other books coming out this year. The Healing Book, which is a collection of fiction short stories, and then The Velvet Ghetto, which is a poetry collection.
Yeah, who knew? So
readers can learn more about your work, maybe purchase previous published books on your website. That's www.dustingrinnell.com. We'll put that in the comments with our taco recipe. But before we go, we've got to do a speed round of taco questions.
All right, let's go.
0 think time, gut response answer.
Okay.
Chicken or beef tacos?
Chicken.
Extra cheese or extra sour cream?
Extra cheese.
Soft tacos or hard tacos?
Soft tacos all week.
Okay, I thought you were going to try to caveat it.
And twice on Sunday.
No, twice on Sundays. Okay, margaritas, salted rim or sugar rim?
You don't have to finish.
Well, Dustin, thank you for helping bring my 8-year dream of Taco Talk alive on this lovely Tuesday evening from Winthrop, Massachusetts.
It's a great honor. I'm so glad that this is off the ground, and I appreciate the invitation to be the first guest.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on YouTube for the full show somewhere in 2023. And thank you for joining us for Taco Talk. I'm Sam Cook. This is my guest, Dustin Grinnell. Have a good one.